is there a connection between the soul and consciousness?
Um, yes, there is some connection. Whether we know what that connection is or not is kind of debatable. But the what is certainly true is that as we have consciousness, we tend to uh, therefore come up with the idea or the story that we have a soul. The notion of a soul is something that resonates with our consciousness, that rings true, that seems to speak to something that most people are familiar with. In fact, uh, I believe it's Paul Bloom. I can't remember if it's in his book or it's research that he did, but there's some specific research on the idea that the concept of a soul is actually an evolutionary product. So you could make a materialist case for the idea itself in that sense. And it's really only like there are people who are like, well, I don't believe I have a soul, but that's just people who are milled through the modernist story to see things, to see that as superstitious nonsense. And they've been taught all these specific arguments. Like, okay, fine. Even if all that's true, it's still true that unless you're taught those things and to start doubting the soul, like the assumption, the natural inclination we have is that there's something that is worth, that needs a name that we might call a soul, we might call the self, we might call whatever. People have different names for this sort of feeling, but that there's a a what you might say a potent essence that is not identical with your body, but that is part of your life, something like that. So
It's like there's an aspect of us, of the individual or I guess, yeah, for lack of a better term, an essence that is outside of this experience of this reality, um and even to conceptualize it is difficult. It's like a tooth trying to identify that it's a tooth. It's um doesn't really it's just it's extremely difficult. But like you said, there seems to be a hinting at or there's an intrinsic, like we're there's and alluding to it almost an extra sense of knowing, an inner knowing that there is an aspect of the individual that transcends this existence. And I think it's extremely comforting to have that. I think a lot of people that don't, that like you said, are stuck in this kind of materialist, modernist, nihilist uh, illusion. They don't have that, so there isn't really an anchor to hold on to, and that's even just trying to conceptualize that of like, well, okay, what if there is nothing? It's just it brings a sense of dread, and so to dawn that on as being your go-to, lens that you see reality through. I mean, that must be an extremely hellish existence.